Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about modals that we use to talk about necessity. Necessity means that something is necessary in order for something else to happen. For example, I have to go to the bank or it will close. And if it closes, I won't be able to take out my money. So I must go to the bank. That is a necessity. When we want to talk about things that are necessary, and there's a lot of things that are necessary, right? To pass a class, you have to study or you have to pass a test, or to get a job, you have to do an interview or speak a different language or something like that. There's a lot of things in life that require necessity, okay? So how do we talk about necessity in English? Well, we have four main choices. Must is the modal we can use. Have to, have got to, and need to are also modals. They're called phrasal modals. They're really common. So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to use these modals to talk about necessity. And I'm also going to show you how each of them can be used in an affirmative sentence, a negative sentence, and a question. Actually, some of them can and some of them cannot be used in those ways. I'm also going to talk about whether they can be used in the past, the present, or the future, because some of them can and some of them can't, and that's really confusing. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So the first thing I want to say is stop saying must when you speak if you are talking about necessity. It's weird. We don't do it. It's not common. We do not use this when we talk about necessity in speech. We use it really just for signs and like written messages, okay? There is another use for the word must, and it's to make guesses and conclusions. And yeah, that's really common, but we don't really use it when we talk about necessity. I mean, maybe if it's like your parent saying, you must do this, and they're yelling, right? But it's usually just in signs and information written down, like you must submit your homework on time. That you might see something written like that. If you're talking, use have to, have got to, or need to. That's what I recommend. Otherwise, it's just going to sound weird if you say must, okay? I don't think I've ever said, I must go to the bank today. Instead, I would say, I have to go to the bank today, or I've got to go to the bank today, or I need to go to the bank today. That's how I would say it. So now that I told you not to use must, let's look at how to use must, but in writing. So, and this is an easy one because you can't really use it for a lot of things. So if I want to use must in writing, I can really only use it in an affirmative statement and in a negative statement. It's not something we use for questions. And it's also something that we really only can use in the present tense, or sometimes to refer to the future too, but not for the past, not at all. Okay, so let me give you some examples. I don't know, maybe this is something you will see like written in a syllabus for a class or something. Students must submit homework on time. Okay, so that just means it's necessary to submit the homework on time, or maybe you won't get the credit. Here we can see must is an affirmative statement, and it refers to all the time, present. In this class, students must always, right, submit work on time. But it can also refer to the future, like in a few weeks, you must still submit your work on time. So it could be for the present and future, but we just use must. So here's an example of it in a negative statement. You must not submit work late. So here, if you make a modal negative, as you can see, you just add the not right after the modal, and then use the base form of the verb. And yeah, this is a negative statement using must, and it shows prohibition. It shows something that's not allowed. And it refers to something that's always true, at least for a certain period of time. So we can say that this also is present time, or it could also refer to the future, right? Like in this class, all semester, even 5 months from now, you must not submit work late, something like that, okay? But we don't at all ever use must for past, and we don't use it for questions. And again, remember, when we're talking about necessity, we don't even say it, we just write it. All right, so now we're gonna talk about have to. This one's my favorite. This is the one I use all the time, especially in speaking, but you can also use it in writing, even formal academic writing, and it works. So that's why it's my favorite. When we're speaking, by the way, we don't pronounce it as have to. We say have to. I have to go, I have to do this, I have to do that, right? Or has to. She has to go, she has to do this, she has to do that, okay? So we pronounce it in a different way. We push the sounds together. Okay, when you use have to, after, of course, you need the base form of a verb, okay? So, for example, students this shows necessity. It's necessary to submit work on time. We have the modal and we have the base form of the verb. This is an affirmative statement with have to, and it refers to the present time. So present, but we can also have it refer to the future. In this class, all semester, now and in the next few weeks, that's future, students have to submit work on time. So it could be future too. But if you want to use a future modal, you could. You could even say students will have to submit work on time. So you could even use the future will modal plus the other modal plus the base form of submit. Students will have to submit work on time next week. Maybe not this week, but next week, students will have to do that. We could even use have to for past. That's why I love this one, because you can use it for everything. So students had to submit work on time last year. If they didn't, then maybe they didn't pass the class or something. They had to do it. They had to. So just notice it's the past tense of have, had to plus base form. So you can see this modal is really great because you can use it in the present, you can use it in the past, you can even use it in the future, okay? You can also use it for an affirmative statement. Let's see if we can use it in a negative statement. Okay, so here's a negative statement with have to. Now remember, have to is a phrasal modal. It's not like a simple modal with one word. Usually with a simple modal, to make it negative, you just add not. But here we have a phrasal modal and it's have to. So in order to make it negative, I need a helping verb, do, and then I can make it negative. Okay, so students do not have to, there's the modal, submit, there's the base form, work on time. Students do not have to submit work on time. There you go, we're using it in a negative form, but be careful because the meaning actually changes. This doesn't mean that it's not necessary to do something. This means when you say don't have to, you don't have to, that means you have a choice. That means you can do it or you can't. It's whatever. Your choice. There's no pain, no problem. Your choice. It doesn't mean that something is not necessary. If you want to say that something is not necessary, then you're basically saying that the opposite of that. So necessity means something has to happen in order for something else. The opposite of that just means something doesn't have to happen. So that's why you can say you don't have to, and don't have to means it's not necessary. You have a choice. So also, what about questions? Yes, you can even use have to for questions. So here we go. Do we have to submit our work on time? Here's a question. Do we have to submit our work on time? Yep, that's a question. So, and it's a question that asks about necessity. Is it necessary? Do we have to? Is it necessary to submit our work on time in this class? So here you can see the wonderful phrasal modal of have to being used in every way possible. I would work on that one. I would do that one if I were you. All right, now the next one is have got to. This one's also really common, but especially for speaking, you hear it all the time. I use it all the time. When we use it, we actually say gotta. We say gotta instead of have got to. So I gotta go to the store because I need food, or I gotta go to the bank because I need money. So we don't say have got to, we say gotta, okay? Or I've gotta, he's gotta. That's when you contract this word with the subject. So like I've gotta, or he's, have becomes has, he's gotta. So we can do that. And let's look at when we can use this as a modal in sentences. Okay, so this sentence, I've gotta go, right? I have got to plus base form of whatever verb you're using. I've gotta go to the bank. When you see this sentence, this is an affirmative statement, so it's affirmative. And also it's in the present time, so I'm talking about right now. Right now, I've got to go to the bank. But also I can use it to talk about or refer to the future, and I can say, oh, tomorrow I've got to go to the bank. Tomorrow I got to go to the bank. So that's kind of nice. You can use it for present or future, but no, we can't use it for the past, or if you can, it's not common. If you want to talk about necessity in the past, do not use have got to. Do not use that. Instead, use had to. I had to go to the bank yesterday because I didn't have any money. We don't say I had got to go to the bank yesterday. No. Okay. The other thing is, can we use it for a negative statement? I don't know. Okay. I never use it. I don't know anyone who does, but maybe in British English or some other English, they might say, I haven't got to go, or I haven't got to go to the bank. But at least in the United States, this is not something we use for negative. Instead, we'll just say, I don't have to go to the bank, or I don't need to go, or I don't need to do something. We don't say I don't gotta, or I can't gotta, or I haven't gotta. We just don't say it like that, but I wonder if somewhere else they do, but I'm not sure. We also can use have got to for questions, but it's not common at all. I do not recommend it, but it is grammatical. For example, have I got to do this? Have I got to do this? It's just not something I ever hear or ever use, but it is grammatical, but I would not say it. I would say, do I have to? Or do I have to? That's what I would say. Or do I need to do this? Okay, the last one is need to. Need to is another type of phrasal modal that shows necessity. And I like this one. It's very common, it's very useful, and it can be used for almost everything. So she needs to go, base form, she needs to go to the store. She needs to go to the store. This is an affirmative statement. We're using it in the present tense. We could also use it in the future. So you can say, she needs to go to the store tomorrow. It refers to the future. But you could even use will. Like you could say, she will tomorrow. She will need to go to the store because she won't have any more food tomorrow. You can also use it in the past. So she needed to go to the store yesterday, and she did. She got all the things she needed. Questions? Can you use it for questions? Yes, you can. Does she need to go? Does she need to go? Now notice it's requiring you to use a helping verb because need to is a phrasal modal, and sometimes you can't just put it at the beginning of a sentence like other modals. Instead, you have to add a helping verb here. And since we're using the simple present time and the verb is need and not be, we have to add a helping verb do. Of course, it's does to agree with the subject, third person singular. So does she need to go? Is it necessary for her to go? Is it a requirement? Yeah, she needs to go. Okay, now let's look at the negative form. So just like the question, to make it negative, you need to add a helping verb before the not. And then you have need to, and then the base form of the verb. She doesn't need to go. She doesn't need to. It's not a requirement. It's not necessary. She can if she wants to. That's her choice, but it's not necessary. That's what this means. So, in conclusion, the best way to talk about necessity, in my opinion, is to use have to, because you can use it in speaking and writing, or to use need to, because you can use it in speaking and writing. And with both of those, you can use them in the past, the present, and the future. You can use them in questions, in affirmative statements, and in negative statements. With must, be careful because this is more common to use it when we're writing something written, like a requirement that is written. But it can't be used in the past, and we don't use it when we're talking. We don't really use it in questions, things like that. So just be careful with must. And then have got to, use it. It's a great way to speak. But when you use it, when you're speaking, I recommend that you say gotta, because that's more common. It's quicker. When you're talking, you want to speak fluently and quickly. Just be careful with gotta because we don't use it for negatives. We don't use it for questions, and we don't use it like in the past. We don't use it for a lot of different times. So we just kind of use it for present and referring to the future. All right. I hope this video was helpful for you. I gotta go.